Welcome back, you filthy exiles. So today we're gonna look at something that I was actually leveling up on stream the other day, and I was gonna stream today and yesterday, but I just didn't get to it. But yeah, we're going to take a look at General's Cry Zerker. So a couple of things. Now, I consider this a perfect build for League Start. After playing it, I am exceptionally over the moon about how bloody powerful that it actually is. Looking at it from a playability standpoint and the percentage of players that play it, surprisingly 43% of Zerker players, and so there were 2% of players in the league that played Zerker, actually played this build. Now, it's really interesting, but let's look at the benchmarking first. So having a look at this, the average damage stats are in the 45, 35 million, 51 million. Some of these mofos got up to nearly 200 million DPS. Now, is this real? Well, I went and I tested it in my own POB, which you can see, you know, we're using all of these stats at this stage. I've leveled it up to level 80 or so. So it's got 20 blitz charges, it's leeching, 50 rage because it's a Zerker, 3 frenzy charges from blood rage. Warcry is always popping, we can tick that on too. Quiv crit, we're channeling because we're using Cyclone. We intimidate because of Haunting Shout on our tree. Cyrus DPS, blood stance, maximum effect on pride, enemies get taunted. It's got a lot of fucking shit going on. Bleeding, moving, rah rah rah. With the gear that I've got, and I don't even have a Paradoxico because I've run out of currency from burning it, I'm on 13.5 million DPS. I change out to a Paradoxica sword, I'm at nearly 23 million DPS. How this actually works is, so General's Cry procs 5 bloody Mirage Warriors, which aren't minions, they stack off of your own character's damage. And then when you run Blade Flurry, you have up to 6 stacks of Blade Flurry, of whereby they then release and basically have this explosive damage output at the end of the instance of running Blade Flurry. So what ends up happening is you've got 5 Mirage Warriors running around doing all this damage around you as you cyclone around and everything's just dying. Now, Zerker has issues with damage layering, and we'll talk about the gearing very shortly, but how I've gotten around this is by doing things like having an enduring cry mapped in, for example. This also is using Lion's Roar. This is also using Val Molten Shell. And I have 3 endurance charges, so this is how I mitigate the damage coming off the Abyssus, which, you know, increases physical damage taken, and also how you deal with Aspect of Carnage, because between these two, you're taking 43% increased physical damage and then 10% increased overall damage. And when you max out your defense stats, so here you got maxed out reses, which surprisingly wasn't too hard, though the life pool is a bit hard to manage. And then you're basically popping your your thingamabob, or your Enduring Cry all the time. You got like 61% damage mitigation anyway, a shitload of armor. You've got more armor, so about 80% damage mitigation and 16,500 armor running around. So you can deal with the physical damage that you're going to be taking. Managing the life pool up is a bit difficult right now because I haven't got all the gear that I need, but it is what it is. So it's pretty sustainable. That being said, when you're running around doing 23 million DPS, it's rather meaningless whatever damage enemies are doing to you, because you're putting down enemies before they even have a chance to breathe. Now, looking at the gearing, now I do have a Reslythers on this. If you were playing this League Start, you would not have a Reslythers, but I did gear benchmark across the league how much the key uniques would cost. And, funnily enough, the Abyssus that I'm using, for example, at League Start, was only like 5 Chaos, going back at the start of April or mid-April when the league actually ticked in. Over the league, it's capped out at about 10 Chaos for an Abyssus. So from a League Start perspective, that's a thumbs up. Completely viable. The Red Blade, which is the shield that gives us increased Warcry cooldown recovery rate by 50%, an infinite power to war cries. This is the piece de resistance. This one at league start was about 50 chaos, then goes down to about 40, 13, by just after, you know, about less than a week after league start, and then sits around 4 to 10 chaos from that point. Is this a league start item? Yes, it drops commonly. It's expensive on day one, as is every single item. And from, you know, even talking about, what was it, the cold iron points that you run on Blade Vortex and everything, they're all coming at a price on league start. Your tabula rasa is about 20-26 chaos. So does this qualify as a league start item? Abso-fucking-lutely. By day 2, the prices already dropped by 20%, and then it goes down by, you know, down to 13 chaos by day 3. You could use another shield to farm endgame. As long as you got your Abyssus, you're pretty much doing, you know, pretty good damn DPS. But yeah, so from a gearing perspective, you know, benchmarking the, you know, the shield that you need for endgame, not an issue whatsoever. Reslythers, little bit of a different situation. This is an expensive item. You won't get this until you get into endgame. You can sub this out for any belt. You don't need a Reslythers. This is just what I had from playing another character, so I slapped it on the character, amps up your DPS, and does a lot of good shit. Anyway, Paradoxica, the sword that we need. League start, yep, bit of an expensive item. Goes down by, you know, just after the first month of league. But to be honest with you, if you know how to target farm the Syndicate, you can farm this sword out yourself, just from playing the game. And in the POB that I'll put in the description of the character that I'm running right now as it is on screen, not actually using a Paradoxica because I don't have one. I am refarming currency because I decided to jump back in the league in its last few weeks. I've actually got a really basic Prismatic Eclipse Blade. And that is still doing crazy ass damage, up to the value of total aggregate damage, 13.5 million DPS running around. Once you get a Paradoxica, it'll just delete enemies off the screen. Right now it's doing crazy ass damage and it's a lot of fun. And I gotta say, really easy build to play. So that's pretty much the gearing aspect. So can you use the... Fuck. Anyway, I'll message you after, Kairos. So can you play this as a league start character? Abso-fucking-lutely. Anyone who tells you you can't, they're psycho and they don't know how to play the game. Anyway, so how does this build work? Okay, well, basically you will need, you have 2 functions to get this working. Number 1, you have Cyclone. On your Cyclone, you'll have Desecrate and Cast while channeling. You also put Fortify on this so you can get damage mitigation. Now, while you're doing this, you're summoning, as you would expect. Now you have corpses. So then while you've got corpses on the ground, you're actually going to hold down your General's Cry, and you're going to attach all your skills in your General's Cry, because your General's Cry are your Mirage Warriors. They're your bros, if you want to call it that. And so as you can see, these little minions come out and they run in every direction and they do their thing. And so that's what does all of your damage. Now on the side of that, obviously I've also got another War Cry. To proc your damage up to get it to that maximum damage stat, you also want to be running both Ancestral War Chief and Ancestral Protector totems with multiple totem support, so you can have 3 totems. You have both totems at the same time. And then you basically, whatever auras, really doesn't matter what auras, you can run Pride, you can run Purity, you can run whatever, it doesn't really make a difference. We're talking of a damage stat of a few thousand. With Pride, you can get a Watcher's Eye and you can get the Impale nodes, or the Impale stat. It's up to you what you do with that. In the Blade, running Enduring Cry, Leap Slam and Second Wind. In my Helm, Molten Shell, Blood Rage, casting damage taken and increased duration. That's pretty much it. I'll put the POB down in the description. You can use this as a base template to get you started. Amulet, doesn't really matter what you run. You run Lucidity as your Anoint, because that'll get you 40% to avoid stun. Now for your Ascendancies, you're going to start by getting Aspect to Carnage. This is going to amp your damage through the roof as you're playing through the campaign. Then you're going to go for Warbringer, which means you gain Rage for War Cries, and you'll see why very shortly. And then you're going to go Flawless Savagery. This is going to increase your damage. And then you're going to go Blitz. This is going to make you a fucking speed demon. And then basically you just go from there. Now everything else that you do is just all about balancing damage, resistances, and life, and you just want to pack as much of that shit on as you can. As you can see, I've not done a very good job across the board with that with some of the gear that I've got, because I've just piecemealed gear that I've got left from League, and or just pulled apart other characters and make this work at League End, so I could test this build so that I could do this video. And also, pretty much this is going to be my League starter. I'm surprised that not more people play this build, to be honest with you. It's fucking insane. You can play it with other skills outside of Blade Flurry. Blade Flurry, though, is probably the best skill, though you can run EQ. There's other different variations where you can run replica Alberon boots, but that's a different video for a different day. So anyway, let's give this a test and see how I go. Alright, so let's try out just a basic T13 map. Now we're only level 80 with this build. We don't have Paradoxica. We've still got a lot of shit to add in, but we'll give this a bash and go from there. So basically we just hold our Q down and then just start spawning our minions. And then they'll spawn in and start doing their thing. Pop out Val Molten Shell. Find that bloody sun prick. There he is. Drop our totems. Still got a lot of damage mitigation to work on. There we go, he's dead. Okay, and we're back to the start. So that particular boss is not a great one for this character to take on, because the increased damage that I take from Aspect Carnage, and you're getting hit with that bloody Sunbeam, which is a pain in the ass. That being said, as soon as you get close to it, it obliterates the boss. Now, for bigger bosses, this is going to be a lot more powerful in taking things like Cyrus down in the endgame in particular. Once you get that Paradoxica, it just rails up your DPS through the roof and you just become a bloody god killer, essentially. But anyway, really straightforward build. I'm actually going to play at League Starter. There are huge improvements. For example, this ring is a turfable ring. This ring could be significantly better. You could do with an Elder Ring with Life on Hit and Assassin's Mark on Hit for bossing. That would generate power charges, which is going to increase your crit. Amulet could definitely get a way better amulet than this. This is pretty dog shit amulet. Yeah, it's got increased to mana and bloody evasion ratings. It's just wasted stats. So there's definitely improvements on this. Definitely Paradoxica. No Helm Enchant, but if you get the Helm Enchant, you want +1 to the number of General's Cry bros that you can summon. From the tree perspective, you definitely want to get Haunting Shout to get Intimidate, and the tree that I've provided, it has Haunting Shout activated. And then just keep pushing your health pool up with your jewels that you collect. So you get this point, you get these points here. You can get whatever other jewel points that you can get throughout the rest of the tree down here as well. Get another cluster jewel set, large cluster jewel, and get fuel the fight and everything else in between. But yeah, pretty much as an overall, really and this dual socket here, pretty much as an overall, really strong build, scales really well through the campaign. And then getting to endgame, farming up the gear that you need is not difficult. It's relatively affordable to get an Abyssus and the Red Blade at the start of the league. So, you know, once you have those two items, you're almost there. You're just looking at shit like Paradoxicas and all that sort of shit like that. Yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. Really easy build. But yeah, anyway, all the POBs will be in the description. This isn't a build guide. You know, I'm going to play this next league, so I probably will do a build guide on it, and there'll definitely be footage of me just obliterating Cyrus. But yeah, anyway, if this vid sort of gives you an idea of what to play next league, then like and sub. I don't know what's going to happen patch notes wise. They may nerf this build. As every likelihood they will hit this. Can they nerf it enough to make it not playable? I doubt that. You know, you're getting damage stats of 25 million or 23.5 million DPS with fuck all effort required to kit the build out. So what are they going to do? Shave off 2 million DPS? Go crazy. Do your worst, GGG, I'd say. You know, as you saw, you know, there are people that are playing this with, you know, 2.3, sorry, not 2.3, 230, you know, million DPS, you know, 200 million DPS. If we go and have a look, what are they running? Pretty much all the same stuff. The only thing is they're running Awakened Gems. You know, they've got better jewels. They've mastercrafted jewels. They're running, you know, Hands of the High Templar and getting, you know, on-hit curse effects for vulnerability, a better Paradoxica. That's pretty much the big ticket item stuff that they're getting to push the damage levels up on General's Cry. It's absolutely mental the amount of damage that this does. You know, General's Cry is +1 to maximum number of Mirage Warriors, and then, you know, they've got a kick-ass additional curse Astral Plate, which synergizes with their, you know, Hands of the High Templar. I'll put a link to this one in particular in the description as well if you want to use this as a template, but it's always good to look at poe.ninja. But yeah, anyway, until next time, like and sub, and bye.